Ready, set, podcast! Yeah, tell me something I don't know.
This is the Ready, Set podcast. Here's your host, me, Joe Persinger.
Oh, hi, Mark. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the podcast. Another episode of Ready, Set Podcast. Apparently, the Libertarian era, as we'll call it. So it's been a while since we have done this. We did our intro episode recently. And honestly, with everything going on, especially over this last quarter and a half, I figured, hey, let's try to get caught up in about a few minutes. Probably going to be less than that unless I ramble on forever. So let's start off with the insurrection, and probably adjust my levels a little bit here. So the insurrection on January 6th, it's actually funny. I was really in the middle of writing when that happened, and I ended up just stopping dead in my tracks as it was happening. I forgot what exactly I was writing about, but you could see as I was writing, I ended up just pivoting and starting to write about it. And then as the media narrative of what was happening started to become clear, I just figured this is something I couldn't even talk about because it was just beyond frustrating what was happening. Essentially, a faction of Trump supporters giving Democrats in the media the rope to hang them with and use against Republicans and the likes for the next 2 years. And Nancy Pelosi and her crony, boomer, rube, useless idiot leadership class is doing exactly that. So anyway, let's talk about this insurrection. Not in too much detail. I mean, really all I have to say is, so you keep hearing this word insurrection. The Democrats are saying, oh, the Republicans, they tried to insurrect the Capitol and this, that, the other, and it's so evil, this and that. Evil? Is it really evil? Just like all that rioting and looting that was going on last summer in Kenosha, Minnesota, and Louisville. I mean, the list goes on. New York, Los Angeles, every city had a riot at some point in the middle of a pandemic going on last summer. And nobody even bothered to mumble the word insurrection. Because after all, an insurrection is what? Let's actually look up the definition of that really quick. A violent uprising against an authority or government. Well, that's very interesting. Because based on that definition of an insurrection, everything that happened over the summer was just that. Well, what about Portland? Portland's been literally under siege since last summer. I'd even say even before that. And in the beginning stages of it, their mayor was pandering to these Antifa clowns. Pandering. And now they literally turned on him to the point where the guy couldn't even live in his condo anymore. And now he's trying to start, I think the last thing I saw that Ted Wheeler was doing was basically snitch campaigns to get people to unmask these masked Antifa fucks who are torturing the city of Portland. But that's not an insurrection whatsoever. Or how about that time back when Brett Kavanaugh was confirmed to the Supreme Court? Anyone remember that? No? No? Well, guess what? Look it up. Because there was a bunch of activists who ended up storming the Supreme Court, banging on banging on doors. And thank God those doors were locked, because otherwise that would have been the original insurrection, which it still was the original insurrection. But our corporate media and the likes don't like reporting facts. They like reporting narratives. Well, what about the fact that Black Lives Matter has been holding cities hostage for almost a year with the threat of rioting? I mean, we are living in a society that has two different standards for two different groups of people. Trump insurrectionists were rightly rounded up. They broke the law, peacefully or not. But when Black Lives Matter activists, rioters, looters, when they burn cities down, they still do it. Loot targets, nothing happens. The FBI isn't trying to round these people up. I mean, for crying out loud, we know they have the technology to find these people. They have facial recognition technology. Oh, but they're wearing a mask. I'm sure if the government really wanted to find out who you were, they can. And we've even seen the proof of this with Trump supporters being arrested in mass by the FBI. Now, I will say, maybe wearing a mask helps a little bit. And not in the, caring for others in health reasons. I'm just saying, maybe that's why these BLM guys aren't getting found. They're wearing masks. I mean, after all, according to the CDC, if you're not wearing a mask when you protest, that's still safe. Like I said, 2 different standards for 2 different groups of people. What about the fact that Trump got impeached a second time in 2 years? Huh? What? Nothing? Oh, okay. What about Biden finally being inaugurated into office? Yeah, that's right. From the first Trump impeachment to the second to Biden getting in office, no one cares. Or how about the first 100 days of Joe Biden's administration? I mean, it could basically be summed up like this. Ooh, someone's knocked the mic over. Fuck Congress. We just need executive action. Right, Joe? I think he was averaging about 4 executive orders for a day for the first month he was in or something like that. I'm sure that's wrong, but there was something like 40 of them within the first week. It was insane. The other policy that Joe Biden's administration has seemed to take on is do the opposite of what Trump does and then do the opposite of that. Don't understand what I'm talking about? Oh, well, just look at everything the Biden administration has done with the coronavirus and vaccine messaging, and of course, look at how they've been handling the border. That would be your number one hint right there. I mean, they literally went into office, undid everything Trump did, created a whole other mess at the border, and now they're quietly re-implementing all the policies that Trump did while trying to take credit for saying that he was wrong, he was racist, he was inhumane, while they're clearly doing the same thing. It is literally like watching China yell at the United States for doing something that they know they did was wrong and then claiming they were innocent. It's fucking crazy. And then I haven't heard from Trump since CPAC when he did that speech at the Hyatt Regency in Orlando. Oh yeah, that's right. That's because he's been banned from social media. Are you okay with that? Oh, well, guess what? That means you're the bad guy in the movie. Or how about the Chauvin trial that just ended recently? I mean, if you think that was justice, well, I guess you probably think that OJ was acting mostly peaceful the night that he killed his wife. And how about anyone who's still obsessed with these coronavirus mask mandates or coronavirus messaging from the CDC, all that stuff? I mean, anyone who still finds this pandemic a threat to their life or society in general is a moron, or a moron who is playing pretend. Take your mask off and go for a walk and do something that requires you to not watch TV, you lazy fuck. Are we caught up yet? Maybe not, but I'm sure there's more to discuss, and we'll do that next time. Oops, that's my hand. On the next episode of Ready, Set Podcast, the Libertarian Era. This is your one-stop shop in current events and politics podcast. If society's a joke, then we're just here for the first set. We'll see you next time, you fucks. Thanks for listening to the Ready, Set Podcast. Check us out next week, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter and look for us on our YouTube channel, Ready, Set Podcast.